Hello, and welcome to another episode of Brettcast Movie and TV Talk. This episode is going to be my top 11 favorite movies of 2019. I'm changing the style of this, so instead of just showing the trailers, I'm going to give a small bit on each movie, like a mini review, mini discussion. I'm also going to take this time to mention my ratings for movies. So the ratings I use are good, or bad, okay, average, good, and great, with an additional bit to add to the rating is if the movie was enjoyable. Also note that this list is structured with number 1 being my most favorite movie of the year, number 11 being my least favorite movie of the year. But that doesn't mean that number 11 would be considered a bad movie, as that would be in a separate list of movies. Number 11, Toy Story 4. The story started out good, and all the usual characters are back, and the new characters are not as bad as I thought they would be. That being said, the story ended in a way that was not satisfactory to me, which is what landed this movie where it is in my rankings. The animation is amazing and sometimes almost photorealistic. But it was really the ending of the movie that it just didn't do it for me, and I wish they wouldn't have ended the movie the way they did. If you want to know more, check out my full discussion on this movie. Toy Story 4 is an average movie. Number 10, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Look, this movie is not as bad as everyone wants it to be. Yeah, there are issues, plot holes, and things left unexplained, but I think this was a good ending point for the Skywalker saga. The action was pretty good, while the story felt kind of stupid at points. It was never bad. Most of the classic characters are dead and gone, but it's fine as I know Disney wants to let go of past characters to open the way for new characters going forward, if there is a forward. There's nothing at the end of this movie that really leads one to believe that there will be more movies to continue from this one. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is a good and enjoyable movie. Number 9, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. This one I did a full discussion on, so go listen to that if you want to hear all of my thoughts on this movie. Now this movie had a lot of crap surrounding it too because of the design of the Pokemon, and honestly, they are hit and miss for me. The story is alright and is very different from the game, especially the ending. The movie feels like a completed story, which is good for people who have not played the game. They changed all the characters except for the main character and didn't really go to any of the locations they do in the game, which is kind of disappointing to me, being someone who did play the game. Really what I'd recommend is play the game before seeing this. It won't take long, it's just like an 8-hour game. And if you've already watched the movie, go play the game and see how different it is. Detective Pikachu is really just an average movie. Number 8, Shazam. Yep, another of the DCEU movies that was actually good, which had not happened since like Wonder Woman. I did do a full discussion on this movie, and yes, it had some issues, as do all of the movies on this list, and I think some of the issues have to do with my limited knowledge of the character. It is very funny, very family-oriented, minus like 1 or 2 scenes that are a bit violent for the younger ones. I think that one thing the movie does that none of the other DCEU movies do is that it really fully believes in the superhero universe it's a part of. One of the characters wears several shirts of characters in the DC universe and a backpack and, uses terms like supervillain and all that. I don't think it's bad. And it's the first time a DCEU movie does this, and I find it interesting. Shazam is a good movie, is enjoyable, and also a good step for the DCEU. Number 7, Godzilla: King of the Monsters. This is a difficult movie to really discuss because of the fact that the story was utterly weak. They still focus too much on the human characters by constantly cutting away from the monster battles, and they cut to the humans who are just regular destruction things that's happening to them, and you know that when you see a Godzilla movie, you're there for the monster battles. They just don't do so well in this movie. But the stuff they did show is a spectacle to behold, and the introductions to the new monsters are epic and done really well. Godzilla, King of the Monsters is a good movie with the addition that it's enjoyable and very epic. Number 6, Aladdin. While the story that the movie is telling is much the same as the original animated movie, doesn't take away from the movie. The actors did well. Will Smith is a fantastic genie. It was very funny, and most of the musical numbers were actually good and went well with the movie. For more in-depth on the movie, you can watch my full discussion video. Aladdin is a good movie and is an enjoyable movie as well. The Lego Movie 2, the second part. Obviously, this movie had a high standard to live up to because the first Lego movie was really good and the Lego Batman movie was also good, but I never saw the Lego Ninjago movie, so I don't know about that one. Now, this movie was not as good as the original Lego movie, but it's still a good movie. The comedy was there, the action was there, and the animation was just as good. I did wait a bit to buy this one, but I knew that I had to, since I got the first one too. The Lego Movie 2, the second part, is a good movie. Number 4, Alita Battle Angel. So this movie is another one of those Hollywood adaptations of manga and anime, which is usually done horribly. Now, I've not read the manga or watched the anime movie based on this, but it doesn't matter. The story was well written and well acted. The visuals were amazing. The characters were well written and well acted. The action was great and the stunts were amazing. The only negative thing is that the score was not anything memorable to me, but that's really it. Alita Battle Angel is a good movie and very enjoyable as well. Number 3, SpiderMan Far From Home. Yep, a superhero movie in the top 5 of my top 11. Yeah, these are movies I like. Tom Holland still knocks it out of the park as Peter Parker and is still, in my opinion, the best on-screen representation of Peter Parker. The action was great, the comedy is good, as always. The only thing that this movie could improve upon is the villain. I didn't dislike him, and he really made the twist in the movie interesting, and the way he carried out his plan was interesting and all that. He just could have used better motivations to do what he was doing besides wanting to be a hero, and that with the events that happened in Endgame, people will believe anything. Anyway, I wish they would have mentioned the snap more and had Peter talk about when he got dusted, but those are not things that make the movie any worse because this movie isn't terrible, is not bad. The credits scene make me ask a lot of questions about what Marvel has planned in their future after this movie. Spider-Man Far From Home is a good movie and is very enjoyable too. Number 2 is Captain Marvel. I am sure that this will probably ruffle some feathers, but people focus too much on the crap outside of this movie rather than on the movie itself. Like Endgame, it's not a perfect movie, but it is enjoyable. This was another Marvel hero that I have limited knowledge about, so I'm glad that I went and saw this and bought it too. The action was great, and the comedy was just as good as always. Seeing the young Nick Fury was interesting and done pretty well. I think that he and Captain Marvel gel really well on screen. This movie isn't perfect, and the story is a little slow at times, and the twist that the Skrulls are really the victims was pretty foreseeable. Jan Rog was a pretty weak villain, but the way the whole story goes, it doesn't really matter much since Jan Rog didn't have much time to be the villain until after the big twist. But I don't care what you think about, the actress because of stuff outside of the movie. Because I think she did well as Captain Marvel, and I look forward to seeing more Captain Marvel in the MCU. Captain Marvel is a good movie and earns its spot right here at number 2. And of course, number one, Avengers Endgame. I know that this movie isn't perfect, but compared to all the movies that I have seen this year, not a single one of the movies came close to the sheer magnitude, the sheer epicness, and the overall amazingness that this movie brought. I had seen it twice in the theater, and I cried both times. It's just an epic, emotional movie, and it's such a joy to watch. Sure, it has a pacing problem, especially in the middle of the movie, slowing down a lot, but like I said, it ain't perfect. The thing that needed fixing is using Thor's state of having PTSD and gaining weight as a joke, because it was not funny any of the times they tried to use it as a joke. Also, the time travel didn't make any sense, and they don't explain it. In fact, they kind of wash over it, like they just want you to accept that it doesn't make sense and get over it. Like I said, it's not a perfect movie, but it's so far from bad. Avengers Endgame is definitely a great movie, and is super enjoyable, and that's why it's at the top of the list. And there is my personal list of what I think are the top 11 movies of 2019, with Avengers Endgame being number one movie of the year. Usually this would get a follow-up of movies of the year that I disliked, but I avoided any movie that I did not want to see, so there will not be that kind of video this time. That's all I have to say, so if you're out of the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.